The insult lands in the middle of the marketplace. You're nothing but a coward hiding behind a sword. 20 people hear it. Turn, wait. The young samurai, Kenji, feels his face flush. His hand moves to his blade. The man who insulted him smirks, waiting for the reaction. And Kenji realizes he's already lost. Not because he was insulted, but because his hand moved before his mind did. The old master watching from across the street sees it too, shakes his head, walks away, because he knows respect isn't won by defending it. It's lost the moment you need to. Here's what the samurai understood that modern people have forgotten. Disrespect only has power if you give it power. The moment you react, argue, defend, fight back, you've accepted the frame. You've agreed that the disrespect matters, that it's true enough to require a response. And in that agreement, you've already been defeated. The ancient Japanese had a practice called Mushi, Wushi, strategic disregard, not ignoring out of weakness, not turning the other cheek out of moral superiority, but denying the disrespect any energy whatsoever, treating it like wind passing through an empty room, present, noticed, irrelevant. Because the samurai knew, the only disrespect that destroys you is the disrespect you validate by reacting to it. The Rising Storm. 1732. Kenji is 19 years old, a skilled swordsman, proud, easily provoked. He's training under Master Hosokawa, a man known for producing warriors who never lose their composure. But Kenji hasn't learned that part yet. He's learned the techniques, the forms, the strikes, but not the mind that makes them effective. The marketplace incident spreads. By evening, and everyone knows, Kenji almost drew his sword over an insult. He didn't, but almost is enough. Because in samurai culture, almost reveals everything. It reveals you're controlled by external validation, that your sense of self is so fragile, words can move it. And a warrior who can be moved by words can be destroyed by strategy. Master Hosokawa summons Kenji that night. "Tell me what happened," Kenji explains. Defensive. "He insulted me in public. I had to respond. Why? Because..." Kenji struggles. "Because if I don't, people will think I'm weak. And that will damage my reputation." Hosokawa is silent for a long moment. "So your reputation is controlled by strangers?" Kenji doesn't answer. "And you think that makes you strong?" Here's what Kenji doesn't understand yet. The need to defend your reputation is the weakness, not the insult. Because if your sense of self depends on how others see you, then anyone can control you. All they have to do is threaten your reputation, and you'll react. Predictably, exploitably. You've handed them the weapon and shown them exactly where to strike. Hosokawa continues, "Do you know why I've never been challenged to a duel? Because you're the best swordsman in the province? No, because no one can provoke me. They've tried, many times. Insults, threats, public humiliation. And every time, I do nothing. Not because I'm afraid, but because I refuse to give significance to their words. And when your opponent can't provoke you, they have no strategy." Kenji is quiet. "So, I should have just walked away?" "No, walking away is still a reaction, still gives the insult weight. You should have stayed. Continued what you were doing, as if nothing happened. But that seems weak. To who? To the man who insulted you. Who cares what he thinks? To the crowd, they're not your judge. The only person whose opinion matters is you. And if you know the insult is false, why would you need to convince anyone else?" Hosokawa walks to the window. "I'm going to tell you something that happened 20 years ago." Kenji leans forward. "There was a man, Akiyama, who hated me. He'd insult me in public, spread rumors, challenge my skill. And every time, I responded, defended myself, argued. And you know what happened?" Kenji shakes his head. "The more I responded, the worse it got. I was feeding the conflict. Until my master said, 'A fire dies without fuel. Stop feeding it.' So I did. The next time Akiyama insulted me, I said nothing. Didn't defend. Didn't walk away. Didn't even acknowledge it. Just continued as if he hadn't spoken. He escalated, got in my face, demanded I respond. I looked through him, like he was air." Hosokawa sits back down. "After a week he stopped, because there was no reward. I'd made myself impossible to move. And once he realized that, he had no power over me." Kenji processes this. So, I should just ignore every insult? No, you should understand what the insult is. It's not truth, it's a test. Testing whether they can control your emotional state. And the moment you react, they win. But if you don't react, you've proven, I am sovereign. And that's what earns real respect. Hosokawa gives Kenji a task. For the next month, practice Mushi. Strategic disregard. Every time someone disrespects you, you do nothing. Not because you're weak, but because you're training. Training your ability to remain internally unchanged regardless of external words. Kenji feels his pride resist. So I just let people insult me? Yes, Hosokawa's voice is sharp. You're still controlled by how others perceive you. Until you break that, you'll never be truly strong. Strength isn't proving you're strong. Strength is not needing to prove it. The next day, Kenji is tested. A rival samurai sees him in the street. I heard you nearly wet yourself in the marketplace yesterday. Kenji's first instinct: defend, argue, challenge. But he remembers Hosokawa's words. A fire dies without fuel. So he says, nothing. Just continues walking. The rival tries again. What? Oh, too scared to respond? Kenji keeps walking, unchanged. The rival gives up, and Kenji notices. It didn't hurt, not because he's numb, but because he chose not to let it matter. But here's the trap Kenji falls into next, the one that almost destroys the entire practice. The misused day 4 of the practice. Kenji is training in the dojo. Another student, Hiroshi, makes a comment. Your footwork is sloppy today. Kenji's mind activates. Is that an insult? Is he disrespecting me? He almost responds. Almost defends his footwork, but then remembers. Mushi. So he says nothing. Continues training. Hiroshi frowns. Did you hear me? Kenji doesn't respond. And Hiroshi walks away, annoyed. That evening, Kenji tells Hosokawa, I did it. Someone tried to provoke me and I ignored them completely. What did they say? They criticized my footwork. Hosokawa is quiet. And was your footwork sloppy? Kenji hesitates. Maybe. I was tired. Then that wasn't disrespect. That was feedback. And you treated it like an attack. Kenji feels something crack. But you said to ignore insults. I said to ignore disrespect, not truth. There's a difference. Disrespect is an attempt to diminish you without basis. Feedback is information about how you can improve. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll waste the practice. You'll ignore everything, including the things that could make you better. Here's the trap. People here don't react to disrespect and think it means ignore all criticism, shut out all feedback, protect your ego from everything. But that's not Mushi. That's fragility disguised as strength. True Mushi requires discernment. Is this person offering truth I need to hear, or are they just trying to move me emotionally? If it's truth, receive it. Even if it stings. If it's manipulation, disregard it. Completely. Hosokawa continues. The practice isn't about becoming unreachable. It's about becoming unmovable. You can still hear people, still consider what they say, but you don't let their words control your emotional state. You remain sovereign, self-determined, and from that place, you can choose how to respond. Not react. Respond. Day 9. Kenji is in the marketplace again. A drunk man stumbles toward him. You're one of those arrogant samurai, aren't you? Kenji's first instinct. Ignore. Walk away. But then he pauses. This man isn't trying to provoke him strategically. He's just drunk, unhappy, lashing out. And Kenji realizes, Mushi doesn't mean being cold. It means not being moved by the disrespect. But you can still respond with humanity. So instead of ignoring the man, Kenji says, Rough day? The drunk man blinks. Wasn't expecting that. What? Seems like you're having a rough day. The man's aggression softens. Yeah, lost my job. Wife left. Everything's... He trails off. Kenji nods. I'm sorry to hear that. And walks away. No lecture, no fix, just acknowledgement. That evening, Hosokawa asks about the practice. Kenji tells him about the drunk man. I didn't ignore him. But I also wasn't moved by the insult. Is that right? Hosokawa smiles. That's perfect. Because you understood. The insult wasn't about you. It was about him, his pain, his circumstance. And once you see that, the disrespect loses all power. Because it was never personal to begin with. Here's the deepest layer. Most disrespect isn't about you at all. It's about the other person's pain, insecurity, need for control. They're lashing out because they're suffering. And if you can see that, really see it, the disrespect stops landing. Not because you're numb, but because you understand it for what it is, a reflection of their state, not yours. Day 17. Kenji is walking through town when he sees a group of samurai from a rival school. One of them, Daiichi, has been spreading rumors about Kenji. False rumors. That Kenji cheated in a sparring match, that his skill is exaggerated, that his master is a fraud. And now they're face to face. Daiichi smirks. Ah, Kenji, I was just telling my students about you. The others laugh. Kenji feels rage rise in his chest. This isn't just disrespect, it's slander. Lies that could damage his master's reputation. Every instinct screams, defend, challenge, fight. But he remembers the practice. A fire dies without fuel. So he says nothing. Looks at Daiichi. No anger, no reaction, just observes and keeps walking. Daiichi is stunned. Calls after him. That's it? No response? Kenji doesn't turn around, and the other samurai notice. One whispers, that took control. Another, he didn't even flinch. That night, Hosokawa asks, I heard about Daiichi. How did you… Word travels, you said nothing. Yes. Why? Kenji thinks carefully. Because responding would have proven I cared what he thought. And do you? No. Good. Then you're learning. But the rumors continue. And Kenji notices something. The less he reacts, the more they spread. People are confused by his silence. Some interpret it as guilt, others as weakness. And Kenji starts to doubt. Maybe silence isn't enough. Maybe I need to defend my master's name. He goes to Hosokawa. The rumors are getting worse. People are starting to believe them. And, shouldn't I correct them? Set the record straight? Hosokawa is quiet for a moment. Do you think your master's reputation is built on words? No, but then words can't destroy it. His reputation is built on decades of action, of students he's trained, of integrity he's demonstrated. Daiichi's lies can't touch that. Unless you give them power by responding. Hosokawa continues. Here's what you don't see yet. Every time you don't react, you're making Daiichi look weaker. Because he's trying to provoke you, publicly, repeatedly. And you're unmoved. Which makes him look desperate, petty, small. The people watching aren't fools. They see it. And the longer you remain silent, the more obvious his weakness becomes. Here's the principle. Silence in the face of slander is the loudest response. Not because it takes the high road, but because it refuses to validate the accusation. When you defend yourself against a lie, you've acknowledged the lie has weight, that it's credible enough to require a response. But when you say nothing, you're communicating. This is beneath response. So absurd it doesn't deserve acknowledgement. And that silence does more damage to the liar than any argument could. Day 23. The rumors peak, then collapse. Because Daiichi has been telling the same lies for weeks, and Kenji has said nothing, no defense, no counter-rumors, no drama, just continued being himself, training, teaching, living with integrity, and people notice, they see. The accusations don't match the person, and slowly, the rumors lose credibility. Not because Kenji fought them, but because he outlasted them. Daiichi tries one more time, confronts Kenji in the street. You think you're better than me because you won't fight? Kenji stops, looks at him, and for the first time in weeks, speaks, not out of anger, out of clarity. I don't think about you at all, and walks away. Daiichi is destroyed, not by insult, by irrelevance. Kenji didn't say, you're wrong, didn't say, I'm better than you, just, I don't think about you. The most devastating response possible, because it's true. But here's the final test, the one that will determine if Kenji has truly mastered Mushi. The ultimate test, day 30. The practice period ends. Kenji returns to Hosokawa. I've completed the month. I can handle disrespect now? Hosokawa nods slowly. Good. Now comes the real test. What test? Disrespect from someone you respect. Kenji doesn't understand. What do you mean? It's easy to ignore insults from fools, from strangers, from people whose opinions don't matter to you. But what happens when the disrespect comes from someone you admire? Someone whose opinion you value? That's where most people break. Hosokawa stands. Tomorrow, you'll spar with Takeshi. Kenji's stomach drops. Takeshi is the senior student, respected by everyone, the model of what a samurai should be. And during the spar, Takeshi will disrespect you. Publicly, harshly. Your job is the same, remain unmoved. Kenji feels something cold move through him. But Takeshi would never... He will, because I've asked him to. This is the final layer of the practice. The next day, the dojo is full. Everyone has gathered to watch. Kenji and Takeshi bow. Take their positions, the spar begins. And immediately, Takeshi's energy is different, aggressive, contemptuous. He strikes, hard, and Kenji blocks, but barely. Takeshi laughs. Is that all you've learned in 6 months? The words land differently than any insult before, because this is Takeshi, someone Kenji respects, admires, wants approval from, and the disrespect hurts. Kenji's form falters, his mind floods. Did I do something wrong? Does he actually think I'm this bad? Takeshi strikes again, harder. You move like a child. Did Hosokawa even teach you anything? Now it's not just about Kenji. It's about his master, and Kenji feels rage rise. His next strike is aggressive, emotional. Takeshi deflects it easily. There it is, the weak mind beneath the technique. The room is silent, everyone watching, and Kenji is shaken. Not by the strikes, by the words, by the fact that someone he respects is seeing him as inadequate. He tries to remember the practice. A fire dies without fuel, but the fuel is already burning. Because this isn't just disrespect. It's disappointment from someone who matters, and that cuts deeper than any stranger's insult. Takeshi sees the break, presses harder. You're not ready. You'll never be ready. You lack the mind for this. And Kenji snaps. He drops his sword, turns to Hosokawa. I can't do this. Hosokawa's face is unreadable. Why not? Because he's right. I'm not good enough. Stop! The room goes silent. Hosokawa stands, walks into the center of the dojo. Takeshi, thank you. You can stop now. Takeshi immediately shifts, bows to Kenji. I'm sorry. Master asked me to test you. Kenji is stunned. You didn't mean any of it? No, you're one of the best students here. I was just playing a role. Kenji looks at Hosokawa. Why? Hosokawa speaks to the entire room. This is the lesson most people never learn. You can ignore disrespect from enemies, from fools, from strangers. But the moment it comes from someone you respect, you believe it. Because you've given that person authority over your self-perception. And that authority, that's the weakness. He turns to Kenji. You practiced Mushi for a month, and you did well. But you were still relying on something external. You were only unmoved because you didn't value the opinions of those who insulted you. But Takeshi's opinion, you valued that. So when he disrespected you, you broke. Because your sense of self was still dependent on external validation. Just from a different source. Here's the deepest truth. True Mushi isn't about ignoring people you don't respect. It's about being unmoved by anyone, including people you do. Because the moment anyone's opinion has the power to shake you, you're not free. You've just transferred the dependency. From strangers to mentors, from fools to friends. But it's still dependency. Hosokawa continues. The final stage of Mushi is this. Your sense of self is internally sourced. Not from enemies, not from friends, not even from me. You know who you are, what you're capable of, where you're growing. And no one, no matter how much you respect them, can shake that knowing. They can offer feedback, and you can receive it. But their words don't define you. Only you define you. Kenji feels something break open inside him, not in a painful way, in a liberating way. He's been seeking approval his entire life. And first from strangers, which he learned to release, but then from Takeshi, from Hosokawa, from people he admired. And he realizes, even that is a cage. True freedom is when no one's words, positive or negative, control your internal state. Hosokawa asks, "Can you spar with Takeshi again?" "Yes. And if he disrespects you?" "I'll know it's just words, not truth." "And if he praises you?" Kenji pauses. "That's the real question. I'll receive it, but not need it." Hosokawa nods. "Now you're ready." They spar again. This time Takeshi is himself, respectful, skilled. But halfway through he tests Kenji again. "Your form is weak." And Kenji doesn't react. Not because he's ignoring it, but because he checks, is it true? He feels his form. It's solid. So the comment is just noise. He continues, unmoved. Takeshi smiles, bows. "Now you understand. But here's what Kenji still needs to learn. How to bring this into the real world, where disrespect doesn't come in controlled training sessions. The living practice. 3 months later. Kenji has integrated the practice. Disrespect still comes, but it doesn't move him anymore. Strangers, rivals, even people he respects. Their words pass through him like wind. He's free, or so he thinks. One evening, Kenji is at a gathering. Local samurai, merchants, community leaders. His family is there. His father, a respected elder, but one who's always been critical of Kenji's choices. "My son chose the sword over a stable profession," his father tells a merchant. "I worry he's wasting his potential on fantasies of honor." The words are said casually, almost as a joke, but they land. Or Kenji feels something he hasn't felt in months. Shame. Not because the words are true, but because they're from his father, the one person whose approval he sought his entire life. And suddenly, all the practice, irrelevant. He's 16 again, trying to prove himself, desperate for acknowledgement. His face flushes. He wants to defend himself, explain, prove his father wrong. But he catches himself. This is the test Hosokawa warned about. He takes a breath, feels the urge to react. The story his mind creates. If I don't respond, he'll think I'm ashamed, that I've failed. But beneath that, truth. He's entitled to his opinion, and I'm entitled to live my life regardless of it. So Kenji says, nothing. Just nods politely, continues his conversation. His father notices the lack of reaction, seems almost disappointed, like he expected a fight. And then later that night, Hosokawa asks, "How was the gathering?" "My father insulted my choices, in public, and I didn't react, but it hurt." "Good." Kenji looks up. "Good?" "Yes, because you felt it, and remained unmoved anyway." That's the difference between suppression and Mushi. Suppression is pretending it doesn't hurt. Mushi is feeling it fully and choosing not to let it control you. Here's the distinction most people miss. Mushi isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about not being controlled by the emotions. You feel the sting, the shame, the anger, but you don't act from those feelings. You feel them, let them pass, and then respond from clarity, not from wounding. Hosokawa continues, "Your father's words hurt because there's history there. Years of seeking his approval, years of wanting him to see you. And that wound is real. But the wound is yours, not his responsibility to heal. He can have his opinion, and you can have yours, and neither has to change for you to be at peace." Kenji nods slowly. "So, I just accept that he'll never approve?" You accept that his approval is irrelevant to your path. You can want it. You can feel sad that you don't have it, but you don't need it. And that distinction, that's freedom. 1 week later. Kenji is teaching a class at the dojo. A new student, arrogant, wealthy, interrupts him mid-instruction. "This technique is outdated. I learned a better version at my previous school." The room goes quiet. All eyes on Kenji, waiting to see how he'll respond. The old Kenji would have felt challenged, would have needed to defend the technique, prove his knowledge. But now, he just observes. Kenji asks calmly, "What school did you train at?" The student names it. A legitimate school, different style. "And what makes their version better?" The student explains. Actually makes some valid points. Kenji listens, considers. "That's a good approach for their style. Different principles, both work. But here, we do it this way. And if you stay, you'll learn why. If you prefer their method, you're welcome to return there. No defensiveness, no ego, just clarity. The student is disarmed. He expected a fight, an argument. But Kenji gave him space. Space to have his opinion, space to choose. The student stays. And later, he approaches Kenji privately. I was testing you, to see if you'd get defensive. I know. And you didn't. No. Why not? Kenji thinks for a moment. Because you weren't attacking me, whilst you were testing whether I'm secure in what I teach. And I am. So there was nothing to defend. Here's what Kenji has learned. Disrespect is often a test of your certainty. People push to see if you believe in what you're doing, if you're secure in your path. And the moment you defend, you've revealed doubt. But if you remain unmoved, calm, clear, unbothered, you've passed the test. Not by proving yourself, but by not needing to. 2 months pass. Kenji's practice deepens. He's learned to handle disrespect from strangers, rivals, family, students. But then, something unexpected. Hosokawa himself criticizes him, publicly, harshly, in front of the entire dojo. Your teaching today was lazy. You're not challenging your students enough. Kenji feels the sting, not because it's harsh, but because it's true. He has been coasting, taking the easy path, and Hosokawa is calling him out, in front of everyone. The old response would be, shame, defensiveness, justification. I've been tired, I've been busy, it wasn't that bad. But Kenji stops himself. He takes a breath. Checks. Is this true? Yes. Is it said to help me or hurt me? To help. Then it's not disrespect. It's a gift. So instead of defending, Kenji bows. You're right. I'll do better tomorrow. Hosokawa nods, and the moment passes. No drama, no wound. Just truth received. After class, Hosokawa speaks to him privately. That was the final test. What was? Receiving true criticism without defending. Most people can ignore false disrespect, but true criticism, they fight it because it touches the ego. But you didn't fight. You just received. That's mastery. Here's the final layer. The hardest disrespect to handle is the truth, because lies are easy to dismiss. But truth forces you to change. And ego hates change, so it defends, justifies, resists. But if you can receive truth without resistance, even when it stings, you've transcended ego entirely. Hosokawa continues. Now you understand Mushi completely. It's not about ignoring disrespect. It's about discerning what's true and what's noise. Noise you disregard. Truth you receive with gratitude. And in both cases, you remain internally unchanged. Not because you're hard, but because you're clear. Clear about who you are, what you're doing, where you're going. And that clarity makes you unshakable. Kenji is now 23. 4 years since the marketplace incident. He's a different person, respected, calm, unmoved by external opinion. One day he's walking through the same marketplace, and he sees him, the man who insulted him 4 years ago. The insult that started everything. The man doesn't recognize Kenji, but Kenji recognizes him and feels nothing. No anger, no vindication, no need to show how much he's changed, just nothing. The man is just a person who once said words that don't matter anymore. Kenji walks past, and the man doesn't even notice. That evening, a student asks Kenji, "How do you stay so calm when people disrespect you?" Kenji thinks for a moment. "I don't stay calm. I just don't add to the disrespect." "What do you mean?" "When someone disrespects you, there's the original disrespect, their words. And then there's the secondary disrespect, the story you tell yourself about it. They think I'm weak. Everyone's watching. I need to prove them wrong." That secondary layer is what destroys you, not the original words. "So I just don't add it." The student nods slowly. "So you just let people say whatever they want?" "Yes, because their words are theirs, not mine. They can think what they want, say what they want, but I don't have to carry it. I can just let it pass, like wind through a forest. Present, noticed, gone." The modern lesson. Here's how this connects to you. Right now, someone is disrespecting you. Maybe in person, maybe online, maybe just in your memory, replaying something someone said weeks ago. And you're carrying it, still defending yourself in your mind, and still constructing the perfect response, still letting their words shape how you feel about yourself. Here's the practice. Tomorrow, when disrespect comes, and it will, pause before responding. Not for dramatic effect, but to check, is this true? If yes, receive it, even if it stings. That's growth. If no, let it pass. Don't argue, don't defend, just disregard, like someone commenting on the weather. Interesting observation, and move on. Notice what happens. The disrespect loses power, not because you fought it, but because you refuse to validate it with a reaction, and over time, days, weeks, months, you'll notice. You're unmoved. Not because nothing bothers you, but because you've stopped adding to what bothers you. You feel the sting, and let it pass. And what remains is you, clear, grounded, free. Do this once, then again. And 30 days from now, you'll realize the opinions of others no longer control you. They can speak, you can hear, but their words don't define you. Only you define you. Years later, someone asks Kenji, "What's the secret to handling disrespect?" Kenji is quiet for a long time. There is no secret, just understanding that disrespect is optional. Someone can say words, but you choose whether those words become disrespect. If you receive them as truth, they're feedback. If you dismiss them as noise, they're nothing. But if you fight them, you've made them real. And real things have power. So you never feel disrespected? I feel it. The sting, the impulse to defend. But I don't act from it. I feel it. Let it pass. And then I'm free. Not because I'm strong, but because I stopped carrying what was never mine to carry. You're reading this right now, and someone's words are sitting in your mind. Something they said, something they'll say. Let it go, not by forcing it out, but by recognizing it was never yours to hold. If this landed, write one word below, whose opinion still moves you.